Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, the usual disclaimers. And I can't help myself, so rant. We're going to try to make it relatively short, though, because this really needs to go on the charger before I do the final vid for today. So my rant is the debate circling sound freedom and child trafficking, QAnon, you name it. And it wants me to bring you back to cold, hard reality. And cold, hard reality is this. Pedophilia is not right or left. It doesn't have a political affiliation. You can find them in every walks of life. To use it for political points is disgusting. To push it one way or another is disgusting. You are once again exploiting those kids for your agenda. You are dragging them back through their trauma for your own agenda. Now, if you were simply to report this as a means to inform the public without your political bias, maybe I might actually believe you care about those kids. But that's not what's going on here. You are using someone else's trauma to push your own crap. Okay? Okay? Let me put it more point blank for you. We have told you about the line of evangelical schools that line from California all the way to Florida. We've told you about how they sexually as well as otherwise abuse the boys and girls who get sucked into that horrible system, among other things. Numerous pastors, youth pastors, clergy, you name it, have been brought up on charges, but the mainstream media does nothing. Not even the so-called liberal left has anything to say on those string of schools other than to use it to score political points. No one's trying to really get into the underbelly, expose them, criminally charge them all, and shut these places down. You also have those on the left who have pedophile ideas. These are facts. They're not opinions. They're not agendas. I'm not trying to score political points. Something else that goes ignored is the systematic abuse of disabled kids in schools all over the world. You have a place like the JRC who's gone decades torturing disabled kids. There's no outcry. There's no uproar because not so easy using us to score political points, is it? So if we cannot be chosen to push one agenda or another, our pain, our suffering, our trauma, and for the love of God, those of ours who have been murdered, y'all don't care. My views on anything that has to do with JD or Hollywood get infinitely more views than when I am fighting to expose and bring down the JRC, Tobin World, Agape. Nobody wants to listen unless it can be used to score political points. If you can't use our trauma to push one way or another, it is radio silence. I haven't seen Sound of Freedom. What I've seen from both sides, those in support and not, is mudslinging. Same kind of mudslinging I see during every single political election. I'm seeing conspiracy nuts with issues who should probably be on medication spouting crap for which they have no evidence. No proof, no evidence. Again, I'm the girl here who's saying, okay, you want to say that people are drinking the blood of children, but you provide me with no evidence and your source is just trust me, bro. I bring you evidence of schools who have murdered disabled kids. ER documents on some of the most horrific, psychopathic abuse perpetuated on disabled kids, and the receipts to back it up. But since nobody can use us, this is the sort of thing that makes me sick, folks. None of us who've gone through abuse, particularly those of us who've gone through child abuse, are here for our traumas to be used so that you can score political points. We're not your pawns, you freaking conspiracy nuts. I'm not here to make you feel better about your tinfoil hat. The victims of the JRC and Agape and all the other schools and the victims that they have left behind from the troubled teen industry are not here for you to score political points or make you feel better about your tinfoil hat. We provide receipts, we get nothing. You want me to believe that Hollywood is drinking the blood of kids on Trust Me, Brah? No. Evidence on the table or get out. Because there is real trauma, real abuse, and murder going on. With receipts, documents, and evidence to back it up, and you all do nothing. Talking about the mainstream media here. On both sides. You all do nothing. There are places so corrupt with their hand in so many different things. You all say nothing. See through, folks. See through. Now to the disclaimers. In the description box, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much, they've threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. Also included in their NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, and just in case the JRC sees through with their threat. Also included in there, speaking of Agape and the people you leave behind. The Ozarks' first article in regards to the Agape boarding school, now known as Stone for Help boarding school situation, a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has impending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated with this thing called hard evidence, not trust me, bruh. And they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor still on the premises, full access to the boys up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy chasing after drag queens and trying and failing to defund public libraries to actually do his job. And you got a governor off his nut. So please read that article and share it on all your social media. Also included all the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including the link to the analysis done by Dr. Fredda back in 1999 that we are going over now. Hoya's massive archive on the subject. Jennifer Masemba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses. A clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002. The templates and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, folks, please use your headphones, all right? Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously, parental supervision is very much advised, all right? So, where we left off in last video. Focus on social relationships. Oh God, the horror. No, that's not sarcasm, folks. Tiffany, you gotta be social. Fine, I'll go put my mask on. The only objectives that have to do with others are touching others appropriately, not pushing the person standing near her, and give an object to another person. I find it funny that the JRC is teaching anyone about touching another person appropriately, considering they do not think we have the right to our own bodily autonomy, including, in particular, when they forced Jennifer Masemba to be tied to all fours to a 4-point board and forcibly bathed while a male person was watching the security camera. Or how about the shocking me for standing up for more than 3 seconds? Not me. I didn't go to JRC, thank God, because my mom would have freaking pulled that place apart by brick. And I don't think a single person would be left standing that was staff. She doesn't play games. You get what I'm saying there. The fact that they have that in there with how they treat those kids, it's disgusting. While these do have to do with another person, they would not contribute to the development of relationships with others. No, it wouldn't. Because these people don't feel that we are capable to have relationships with others. Well, I'm afraid, Karen, that's just not true. Because I have many relationships with others. But that's impossible, right? I must be a shut-in. There are some days, Karen, I wish I was. Have you seen neurotypicals lately? Relationships is a critical educational outcome. As such, must be systematically taught. This is true. Again, we live in a neurotypical world. The majority of the folks out there are not atypical brained. If we are going to live out in that world independently, and I do, we're going to have to do the more unpleasant parts of it, such as socializing with the normies. Sorry for the condescension, folks. I'm in a wee bit of a mood. You can't do that in a bubble, like I was stating previously. How best do you build relationships with your non-disabled peers out in community when you are keeping those kids in a bubble? And the few times you take them outside of the bubble, it's still not in a way that you can interact with your non-disabled peers in a meaningful fashion. Goals in this area might focus on teaching participation in social interactions that facilitate play. Again, this is why I'm a huge champion of things like D&D and Shadowrun, because A, the role-playing that they have in therapy offices makes me want to shoot myself in the damn head. It is that boring, it is that asinine, it is that dumb. However, playing games like D&D or Shadowrun or a myriad of others out there, because believe me, there's literal thousands. One for every kind of interest you might want to have, I might add. That does actually facilitate that kind of play and social interaction with disabled and non-disabled peers alike. Companionship, helping another, being helped by another, and participating in a reciprocal relationship with a peer. Again, folks, even in the best program, if you keep those kids inside a bubble, you're stunting them. You can't build any kind of communication, any ties in your community, if you're not letting the kids go out into the community. You're not building any camaraderie with the normies out there if you're not allowing us to interact with normies. Granted, it's not something the majority of us relish because you all like to nitpick us to death, condescend. I got a list. Of grievances. Paul does. The majority of our atypical brethren, we've got a list, all right? Your normies aren't so normal.
At least not to us.
Y'all got issues. But we have to be able to interact. We have to deal with each other, as Foamy would put it. People suck. I know they suck. You know they suck. But hey, the world is filled with them where you got to work together. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that in a bubble. But places like the JRC do that isolation for the same reason that abusive parents or abusive spouses do it. Think on it, right? If you isolate someone from interacting with their community in spite of what their IEP says, it's less likely to get out there that people become rather suspicious about the rather robotic manner of the kid that's going out of that school. But even for the best intentioned, and there's schools who do live in a bubble, you're stunting the kid. You got to get them interacting with their fellow community members, or you're setting them up for a fall. Remember when I told you that I helped advise with the Rivendell School here in town? There is regular, we're not just talking field trips out in the community, but regular partnerships in the community, particularly when it's charity drive time part of year. They also focus on volunteering out in the community, the sort of things that gets us out there. Usually based on our interests, because otherwise you're not going to convince us. That's what's going to build those relationships. That's why schools that are part of the new generations are important. They're doing important work and nobody's reporting on it. This is the new mentality of helping forge that circle for support starting young, to prepare these kids for what comes next by building those ties out in the community and building even more upon those. And by working and doing those charity drives and volunteering, it also forges almost an emotional bond with the rest of the community, both disabled and non-disabled alike, which is why it's one of the things that I actually agree with. We're going to close on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Now I have to get this on the charger before it dies. Bye-bye, everyone.